Imagine stumbling into a night that rewrites your entire existence, not because you were looking for it, but because for the first time in a crowded room full of strangers, someone truly saw you. That's precisely what unfolded when my roommate's renowned sibling, a celebrated performer, extended an invitation to an exclusive gathering nestled deep within the city's most coveted hills. My intention was merely to accompany her, a quiet observer in a world I didn't belong to. Little did I comprehend that I was stepping across a threshold into the definitive moment that would cleave my life into an undeniable before and after. So there I stood, a solitary figure before the mirror, grappling with the bewildering question of why I was even bothering to prepare for an event I had no desire to attend. My name, for context, is Maya Rodriguez. Before we continue, tell us where in the world you are watching from. Drop it in the comments below. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more powerful content like this. I am 27 years old, and I have resided in this sprawling metropolis for 4 years now, eking out a living as a freelance coder from the confines of my diminutive second bedroom in a modest apartment. My roommate Chloe is my absolute antithesis. She's a budding journalist, a force of nature perpetually in motion, always coaxing me into whirlwind adventures and obscure cultural happenings that I would, under normal circumstances, assiduously avoid. Chloe possesses an effervescent energy that saturates every space she enters, a vibrant aura that pulls focus. Me? I am typically the one nestled in a secluded corner, engrossed in a novel, silently praying to avoid any unwelcome eye contact. Yet, that particular night, that singular night, everything irrevocably shifted. It was a crisp Tuesday in mid-October. The lingering warmth of summer had finally relinquished its grip, leaving behind a cool, almost anticipatory chill that settled over the city like a forgotten melody. I was ensconced on the sofa in my customary spot, laptop humming softly, deeply immersed in debugging a complex script for a local tech startup. The apartment carried the faint, acrid scent of scorched toast, a testament to Chloe's latest culinary misadventure. She burst through the front door with the unbridled force of a gale, phone clutched in one hand, a cascade of keys jingling in the other. "Maya, oh my God, you are never going to believe this." I offered a non-committal grunt, my gaze still fixed on the screen. What seismic event has befallen us now? Aurora is back in town. I froze. Aurora, Chloe's elder sister, Aurora Vance, the actress whose visage graced countless magazine covers, whose interviews dominated talk shows, whose presence illuminated every red carpet, the woman whose face, larger than life, was emblazoned on a movie poster directly above our television set. I had never encountered her in person, not once. Chloe spoke of her incessantly, a constant sparkling stream of anecdotes, but Aurora was invariably elsewhere. New York, London, some remote film set. To me, she was less a tangible person and more an elusive, dazzling myth. Right, I managed, my voice carefully modulated. That's interesting. Chloe practically threw herself onto the cushions beside me, her eyes alight with an almost manic glee. She's hosting an after-party tomorrow night for her new documentary premiere, and she specifically told me to bring you. My stomach plummeted. Me? Why on earth me? I don't know. She asked about you last week. Said she wanted to meet the mysterious roommate who never ventures beyond the apartment walls. I let out a nervous, almost involuntary laugh. I leave the apartment for artisanal coffee and the occasional visit to the post office. Those hardly qualify as ventures. I shook my head, a slow, deliberate movement. Chloe, I cannot possibly attend a high-profile industry party. I don't even possess anything remotely suitable for such an occasion. She seized my shoulders, her grip surprisingly firm. Maya, this is Aurora, my sister. She never, and I mean never, extends invitations like this unless she genuinely means it. If she's asking for you specifically, you are unequivocally going. End of discussion. I longed to protest. Truly I did. But a certain inflection in Chloe's voice, a subtle undertone of unwavering conviction, compelled me to hesitate. Perhaps it was a flicker of dormant curiosity, or perhaps a deeper, more primal fear of missing out on something I might later regret. Fine, I mumbled, capitulating, but I am absolutely leaving at the earliest conceivable opportunity. Deal! Chloe shrieked, enveloping me in a hug so fervent I worried for the integrity of my ribcage. The following day blurred past in a haze of frantic indecision. I cycled through at least 6 different outfits, each one more dissatisfying than the last, before finally resigning myself to a simple charcoal dress Chloe generously offered. It was snugger than I preferred, revealing a touch more décolletage than I was accustomed to, but Chloe was adamant. "You look absolutely stunning," she declared, meticulously applying mascara in the bathroom mirror. "Aurora is going to adore you." "And why?" I ventured, a knot forming in my stomach. Does that particular sentiment sound utterly terrifying? She merely grinned, a knowing glint in her eyes. "Because it is." We summoned a rideshare service and ascended into the city's exclusive hills just as the sun began its descent, painting the western sky in spectacular hues of violet and gold. The sprawling urban landscape beneath us shimmered, a breathtaking tapestry of incandescent light, like something conjured from the depth of a dream. The driver deposited us before a striking modernist glass and steel villa, an architectural marvel that seemed plucked directly from the glossy pages of a high-end design magazine. A pulsating rhythm of music emanated from within. Laughter, unrestrained and exuberant, spilled out onto the manicured driveway. An opulent procession of luxury vehicles lined the street, glittering under the twilight sky. I felt so profoundly out of place, so utterly superfluous, that I nearly pivoted and fled. Chloe, sensing my hesitation, gripped my hand firmly. "Don't you dare abandon me now." We entered together, a silent pact of solidarity. The house was a pulsating hive of activity. Beautiful people thronged every available space. Models, actors, producers, media moguls. Each individual seemed to possess an innate belonging, a natural grace that would translate seamlessly onto the silver screen. I felt simultaneously invisible and excruciatingly exposed. Chloe, in her characteristic fashion, was almost immediately drawn into an animated conversation with a director she recognized. I stood awkwardly, a half-empty glass of sparkling wine clutched in my hand, desperately trying not to scan the room for an inconspicuous exit. It was then that I saw her, Aurora Vance. She was positioned across the expansive room near the panoramic floor-to-ceiling windows, draped in a shimmering iridescent gown that captured and refracted the ambient light with every subtle movement. Her dark, lustrous hair cascaded in artful waves over one shoulder. She was laughing at something someone had said, a bright, melodic sound, but her eyes, piercing and intelligent, were systematically sweeping the milling crowd. And then they met mine. I lacked the words to adequately describe the sensation. It wasn't like encountering a stranger. It was a profound, almost primal recognition, as if I were gazing upon someone I had inexplicably forgotten I was destined to meet, as if the very fabric of the universe had patiently awaited this precise confluence of moments and had finally, perceptibly exhaled. She did not avert her gaze. Neither did I. A jostle from an oblivious partygoer fractured the delicate spell. I blinked, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs, and when I refocused, she was gone. I let out a slow, deliberate breath, rationalizing it away, telling myself I had merely imagined the intensity of the connection, that someone of her stature would never possibly notice someone as unremarkable as me. but my hands were undeniably trembling. Chloe reappeared at my side, a wide, triumphant grin plastered across her face. "There you are. Come on, let's find Aurora." "No, it's quite all right. You must be Maya." The voice, a low, velvety murmur, came from directly behind me, familiar somehow, even though I had never heard it in person before. I turned slowly. Aurora Vance stood less than 3 feet away, a champagne flute held with effortless elegance, her captivating eyes locked squarely on mine. Up close, she was even more breathtaking, not in the intimidating, inaccessible way I had mentally prepared for, but in a manner that felt unexpectedly warm, undeniably real. She offered a soft, genuine smile. "You must be Maya." I managed a small, almost imperceptible nod, my vocabulary having apparently deserted me. "I'm Aurora." She extended her hand, a gesture of grace. I reciprocated, our hands meeting. Her grip was firm, confident, reassuring. Her skin surprisingly warm. "Chloe has spoken of you extensively," she said, her voice laced with an amused curiosity. "Good things, I hope." She tilted her head slightly, studying me with an almost scientific scrutiny, as if I were a rare specimen she had just unearthed. "Only the very best things," Chloe interjected, materializing beside us, positively radiating satisfaction. "You two finally met." Aurora did not spare her sister a glance. Her gaze remained steadfastly fixed on me. "Finally," she murmured, her voice quiet, imbued with an unreadable significance. And just like that, my life irrevocably bifurcated. The party continued to churn around us, a cacophony of music and laughter, yet we stood in an inexplicable pocket of stillness, as if caught in the tranquil eye of a storm. Music throbbed through the floorboards, a visceral pulsation. Voices, amplified by alcohol, echoed too loudly. People drank too rapidly, engaging in elaborate performances for each other, entirely oblivious to their own theatrics. But Aurora merely stood there, her gaze unwavering, as if the rest of the world had abruptly fallen silent. "You don't particularly enjoy these gatherings, do you?" she inquired, her voice a soft probe. I blinked, taken aback by her astute observation. "Is it that transparent?" She smiled, a genuine, unpracticed curve of her lips. "You've been cradling the same glass of champagne for the better part of 20 minutes and haven't taken a single sip." I glanced down at the untouched liquid in my glass. She was absolutely right. I'm more of a stay-at-home with a good book kind of person, I confessed. "Good," she replied, a faint mischievous glint in her eyes. "So am I." I laughed, a genuine surprised burst of amusement. "You? The celebrated performer who attends premieres on a bi-weekly basis." "That," she stated simply, gesturing vaguely around the room, "is work. This," her gaze swept over the revelers, "is merely noise." Chloe had, predictably, drifted away once more, drawn into yet another captivating conversation. It was just the two of us now, standing near the periphery of the teeming crowd. Aurora leaned in almost imperceptibly. Her perfume, a soft, ethereal blend of floral and expensive, yet never overpowering, enveloped me. Fancy escaping this scene? My heart performed an erratic flutter. "Escaping? We've only just arrived." "Precisely," she countered, her eyes sparkling with unadulterated mischief. "Let's simply vanish from this one." Every rational fiber of my being screamed for me to decline. I should have remained cloistered in my safe, comfortable invisibility. But something in the way she looked at me, an unspoken invitation in her gaze, ignited an impulsive desire to follow her anywhere. "Okay," I whispered, the word barely audible. She smiled, not the polished, practiced smile of a red carpet celebrity, but something profoundly real, and reached for my hand. Her touch was warm, surprisingly strong, reassuring. She navigated the dense crowd with effortless grace, weaving past actors and social media influencers as though she had perfected the art of disappearing 1,000 times over. No one intercepted her. No one, it seemed, even registered our departure. We slipped through a discreet side door and emerged onto a sprawling, dimly lit balcony that offered a panoramic vista of the illuminated city below. The oppressive din of the party receded behind us, fading into a distant murmur. Out here, the air was perceptibly cooler, crisper, cleaner. The incandescent sprawl of the city stretched out beneath us, a breathtaking galaxy laid flat against the dark canvas of the night sky. Aurora released my hand and moved towards the ornate wrought iron railing. She extracted a slender cigarette from a small, elegant silver case nestled within her purse and lit it, exhaling a plume of smoke into the cool night air. "I wasn't aware you smoked," I commented, joining her at the railing. "I don't, not habitually anyway." She took another slow drag, the tip glowing crimson in the darkness. "Only when I need to think." "What are you contemplating?" She cast a sidelong glance at me, her eyes unreadable, enigmatic. "You?" My breath hitched. "Me? Chloe talks about you incessantly," she clarified, flicking ash over the edge of the railing. "The quiet one who lives with her. The one who's far too intelligent for her own good." I felt an immediate flush creep across my cheeks. Chloe tends to exaggerate. "Does she?" Aurora took another drag, her gaze fixed on the distant lights. "She mentioned you arrived here 4 years ago with little more than a single suitcase and a laptop, that you meticulously built your entire coding business from the ground up, that you steadfastly refused to ask for assistance even when you should." I swallowed, a dry, almost painful gesture. "She definitely talks too much." Aurora laughed, a low, genuine sound that resonated with unexpected warmth. "She does, but she's not entirely inaccurate, is she?" I found myself utterly speechless, so I simply stared out at the sprawling city, my heart thrumming with a dizzying mix of anxiety and something akin to exhilaration. "Do you wish to know something amusing?" Aurora said after a prolonged moment of comfortable silence. "What?" "I was, in fact, envious of you." I turned to her, genuinely shocked. "Envious of me?" She nodded slowly, her gaze still fixed on the mesmerizing cityscape. "Chloe would call me, detailing her daily exploits, and she would invariably mention you. How you two would remain awake late into the night, discussing complex code and abstract philosophical concepts. How you could effortlessly make her laugh when she was under immense pressure. How you felt like the sister she had in essence chosen." Her voice softened, imbued with a fragile vulnerability, a stark contrast to the self-assured performer I had witnessed on screen. "I have dedicated my entire existence to performing," she continued, her voice a hushed confession, "to embodying the expectations of others. But you," she turned to me fully now, her gaze unwavering. "Chloe said you are simply you, unapologetically." And I found myself longing for that authenticity. I felt a sudden tightening in my chest, a profound ache of recognition. "You don't even truly know me." "Not yet," she conceded quietly, "but I would very much like to." The words hung between us, palpable and undeniably real. I remained silent, unable to articulate a coherent response. So I simply looked at her, truly looked at her, up close, stripped of the cameras and the harsh stage light and the meticulously applied makeup. She appeared subtly different, softer, more profoundly human. There were faint, almost imperceptible lines etched at the corners of her eyes, a small intriguing scar on her chin, imperfections that rendered her more beautiful, not less. "Why me?" I finally managed to ask, the question emerging as a hesitant whisper. "You could be in there, engaging with anyone, directors, producers, fellow actors. Why expend the effort to drag me out here?" She meticulously stubbed out her cigarette, extinguishing the glowing ember, and turned to face me completely. "Because everyone in there desires something from me. A photograph, a valuable connection, a sensational story they can exploit. But you," she took a subtle step closer, diminishing the already minimal space between us, "you didn't even wish to attend tonight?" I laughed despite myself, a small involuntary exhalation of amusement. That much is undeniably true. "So, why did you?" I pondered the question, searching for an honest answer. Chloe, I admitted. She insisted. Only Chloe? I hesitated, a profound truth hovering on the tip of my tongue, and perhaps I was mildly curious about the gathering. And about you? The admission hung in the cool night air like a hushed confession. Aurora's eyes softened, a gentle warmth emanating from their depths. Good, she whispered, her voice barely audible, because I have been profoundly curious about you too. We stood there mere inches apart, the city's dazzling panorama sprawling beneath us. The distant echoes of the party felt 1,000 miles away, an inconsequential hum. I could distinctly perceive the rapid thrum of my own heartbeat reverberating in my ears. You are not what I had anticipated, I murmured quietly. The words a raw, unfiltered observation. Neither are you, she reciprocated, her voice equally hushed. Her hand, almost imperceptibly, brushed against mine on the railing. Not a possessive grab, not a firm hold, merely a tentative, fleeting touch, as if testing the unseen currents between us. It felt electric, fragile, unequivocally honest. I did not instinctively recoil. Tell me something profoundly true, Aurora implored suddenly, her voice a soft command. Something you have never confided in anyone else. I considered her request, my heart accelerating its already frantic pace. I moved to this city, I confessed, the words emerging in a torrent, because I yearned to disappear, to initiate a complete reset, to become an entirely new version of myself. Did it succeed? I met her gaze, a profound uncertainty clouding my own. I don't know yet, she smiled, a faint melancholic curve of her lips that was nonetheless breathtakingly beautiful. Me, neither. We remained on that balcony for what felt like an eternity, conversing about everything and absolutely nothing, delving into the intricacies of loneliness and ambition, the crushing weight of external expectation, and the nuanced distinction between being truly seen and merely being looked at. And somewhere, amidst the champagne-induced haze and a hypnotic shimmer of the city lights, a terrifying realization dawned upon me. I did not, under any circumstances, wish for this night to draw to a close. We lingered on that balcony until the pulsating energy of the party within began to wane. The crowd noticeably thinning out. Guests were departing, summoning ride shares, their expensive heels clicking a diminishing rhythm down the expansive driveway, their tailored suits a fading blur in the night. But out here, with Aurora, time felt like a malleable entity, something we possessed the rare ability to control. She lit another cigarette, even though she had initially professed to not being a habitual smoker. I observed the way the ember glowed a vibrant crimson in the deepening dark, the ethereal tendrils of smoke curling delicately around her fingers. Do you ever experience the unsettling sensation that you are living someone else's life? She inquired abruptly, her voice a soft, introspective probe. I turned to her, my brow furrowed, and thought, what precisely do you mean? She exhaled slowly, a delicate plume of smoke dissipating into the cool night air. Like everyone perceives me as Aurora Vance, the celebrated actress, the one whose face graces countless magazine covers, the one who offers practice smiles for cameras and delivers carefully curated responses in interviews. But that truly is not me. That is merely a meticulously crafted character I embody. So, I asked softly, my voice barely a whisper, who are you then? She laughed, but the sound was hollow, devoid of genuine mirth, tinged with a profound sadness. I don't know anymore. I have been playing that particular character for such an extended period that I have forgotten where she concludes and where I, in my authentic self, begin. I understood that sentiment far more deeply than she could possibly fathom. I comprehend entirely. I migrated to this city with the explicit intention of reinvention. I left everything I knew behind in my small hometown. I endeavored to fundamentally alter my entire life. But sometimes I find myself questioning if I am merely feigning a persona, pretending to be someone I am inherently not. Are you? She pressed, her gaze piercing. I considered her question, the answer a swirling vortex of uncertainty. Perhaps, or perhaps I am merely undergoing a metamorphosis, gradually becoming the person I was always destined to be. I find myself unable to discern the distinction. Aurora nodded slowly, her expression contemplative, as if I had just articulated a profound universal truth. That is undeniably the most terrifying aspect, isn't it? The unsettling ambiguity of not knowing if you are genuinely growing or simply perpetually running. Yes, I whispered, the single word laden with a shared understanding. We lapsed into silence once more, a comfortable, effortless quiet, as if we had known each other for a lifetime instead of a mere handful of hours. Then her phone vibrated with a soft buzz. She retrieved it, glanced at the illuminating screen, and let out a resigned sigh. My publicist, she explained, a hint of weary exasperation in her voice, inquiring as to my whereabouts. Apparently, I am expected to be networking. Sounds utterly exhausting. It is. She slipped the phone back into her purse, her expression hardening subtly. But it is the inherent price of the life I have chosen. Do you regret it? She met my gaze for a long, unblinking moment, her eyes revealing a complex tapestry of emotions. Sometimes, especially on nights such as this, when the stark realization dawns upon me that I cannot even genuinely relish my own gathering because I am too perpetually occupied with the demands of performance. Then why? I inquired, my voice soft but insistent. Do you persist in doing it? Because, she replied, her voice cracking almost imperceptibly, I genuinely do not know what else I would do. Acting is all I have ever demonstrably excelled at. Without it, I am simply no one. I reached out instinctively, without conscious thought, and gently touched her arm. That, I stated softly, is simply not true. She looked down at my hand, resting on her arm, then back up at me, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Yet she did not overtly weep. You do not know me sufficiently well to assert that. Perhaps not, I conceded, my touch firm. But I know enough to understand that you are profoundly more than merely what you do for a living. She offered a faint, almost imperceptible smile, but it did not quite reach the depths of her expressive eyes. You are remarkably sweet, Maya. I am honest, I corrected gently. Same thing, she countered, a hint of wry amusement in her voice. In this particular city, she wasn't entirely incorrect. This city possessed a peculiar ability to render honesty an act of radical defiance. From within the house, the music had abruptly ceased. I could distinctly hear Chloe's voice, raised slightly, calling my name. Aurora heard it too, subtle shift in her demeanor. Your ride, she observed quietly, is likely departing. Yes, I acknowledged, probably, but neither of us made a move to leave. May I inquire about something? Aurora asked, her voice a thoughtful murmur. Certainly. Why did you truly come tonight? I hesitated, the unvarnished truth feeling overwhelmingly vulnerable. Yet after the profound intimacy we had just shared, the thought of dissembling felt immeasurably worse. Chloe mentioned you had inquired about me, I confessed, and I suppose I harbored a desire to ascertain why. And now, she ventured, a faint smile playing on her lips. You know, I shook my head slowly, a subtle disagreement. Not entirely. You remain, to a significant extent, an intriguing mystery to me. She laughed, a genuine unforced sound this time. Good. I quite enjoy being mysterious. Maya! Chloe's voice, imbued with a palpable sense of relief, echoed from the doorway. There you are. I've been searching everywhere. Our ride share has arrived. Aurora straightened, seamlessly slipping back into her polished public persona with such effortless grace that I almost failed to notice the transition. Almost. It was truly a pleasure meeting you, Maya, she said, extending her hand formally, her voice imbued with a polite, almost detached cordiality. I shook it, feeling the lingering warmth of her palm against mine, a faint echo of our earlier connection. You as well? Chloe embraced her sister goodbye, mumbling something about a brunch next week, and then firmly grasped my arm. Come on, before we entirely miss our ride. As we walked away, I cast a backward glance. Aurora remained on the balcony, a solitary figure, watching us depart, watching me depart. Our eyes met one final time. She did not smile, neither did I. But something profound passed between us, something unspoken, something undeniably unfinished. In the confines of the rideshare, Chloe was practically vibrating with excitement. Oh my God, you and Aurora absolutely clicked. I knew you would. She never engages with people at parties like that. She typically sequesters herself in the bathroom, you know. We merely conversed, I said, attempting to imbue my voice with an air of studied casualness. For approximately 2 hours, Maya, that is an immense development. Aurora simply does not do that. I stared out the window, observing the city lights blur into streaks of vibrant color. She is not what I had anticipated. In a beneficial way, Chloe pressed, or in a perplexing way. Chloe laughed, a knowing, almost mischievous sound. That is Aurora. She is inherently complicated, but in the most captivating manner possible. I offered no response. My mind was consumed with replaying the events of the evening, the way she had looked at me, the fleeting touch of her hand, the profound sense of being truly seen in a way I hadn't experienced in years. Upon our arrival home, Chloe immediately collapsed onto the sofa, succumbing to the night's exertions, but sleep remained an elusive phantom for me. I sat by the window in my room, staring out at the myriad city lights, my thoughts inextricably bound to Aurora. My phone buzzed softly. An unknown number. I opened the message. This is Aurora. Chloe provided me with your number. I hope that is acceptable. My heart performed an abrupt, painful lurch. I stared at the message for an entire minute, processing its implications before my trembling fingers finally managed to type a reply. It is acceptable. 3 dots appeared, vanished, then reappeared again. I meant what I expressed tonight. I would very much like to get to know you better. I found myself utterly devoid of an appropriate response. So I simply wrote the unvarnished truth. I would like that too. Another pause. Good. Because I have not ceased contemplating you since you departed, I reread that message 3 times, meticulously dissected each word, each nuance. Then I carefully placed my phone down, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm, my hands visibly shaking. What inexplicable phenomenon was unfolding? I had no definitive answer, but for the first time in an immeasurable span of time, I was not consumed by the fear of uncertainty. I was, instead, profoundly, exhilaratingly excited. 3 days elapsed before I received another communication from Aurora. 3 interminable days punctuated by the ritualistic checking of my phone every 5 minutes, interspersed with forceful mental admonitions that I was behaving absurdly, that she was undoubtedly preoccupied, that she had likely attached no significant meaning to that initial text. Yet, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, as I was deeply engrossed in refining a new software algorithm, clad in my most comfortable pajamas, my phone buzzed with an insistent vibration. Are you available tonight? I stared at the message, my hands visibly trembling, a physical manifestation of the sudden rush of adrenaline. I could be. Why? Because I wish to see you again, without the clamor of the party, without the oppressive weight of the noise. Just us. Just us. Those 2 simple words resonated deeply within my chest, evoking an unexpected warmth. Okay, where? I will collect you at precisely 7. Wear something comfortable. I harbored no definitive understanding of what comfortable truly entailed in the context of an evening with a renowned celebrity, yet I dedicated the subsequent 3 hours to a meticulous, almost obsessive trial and error fashion show through the entirety of my wardrobe. Ultimately, I settled upon a pair of well-worn jeans, a soft, oversized sweater, and my beloved scuffed sneakers. Comfortable, as she had instructed, but also unequivocally me. Chloe was fortuitously engrossed in a late afternoon study session on campus, which spared me the immediate necessity of attempting to articulate my clandestine plans. In truth, I possessed no coherent explanation to offer anyway. At exactly 7 o'clock, my phone vibrated once more. I am outside. I retrieved my jacket, a familiar sense of nervous anticipation blossoming in my stomach, and descended the stairs. As I stepped out into the twilight, a sleek obsidian SUV with heavily tinted windows was parked discreetly at the curb. The rear passenger door swung open with a soft, almost imperceptible whoosh. Aurora sat inside, clad in jeans, a supple leather jacket, and oversized sunglasses despite the rapidly setting sun. She offered a subtle, captivating smile when she saw me. "Enter." I slid into the opulent leather seat beside her. The door closed with a reassuring thud, and the driver, a silent, almost spectral presence, pulled away without a single word. "Where are we headed?" I inquired, my voice a whisper against the hum of the engine. "Somewhere quiet," she replied, her voice imbued with a sense of deliberate mystery. "Somewhere no one will recognize me." "Does such a place genuinely exist in this city?" She laughed, a genuine, unforced sound that warmed the air between us. "You would be astonished." We drove in a comfortable, companionable silence for a considerable period, heading east, away from the glittering nexus of celebrity and self-promotion. The urban sprawl gradually thinned out, replaced by undulating hills and winding, secluded roads. Eventually, we pulled into a small, almost hidden hiking trail parking lot, entirely empty, save for one solitary, unassuming vehicle. "We are hiking?" I asked, a faint note of bewildered amusement in my voice. "Merely a brief stroll," Aurora clarified, a playful glint in her eyes. "Trust me." We exited the vehicle and began our ascent up the winding trail. The sun had almost entirely vanished beneath the horizon, painting the vast canvas of the sky in breathtaking, ephemeral shades of rose and fiery orange. Aurora removed her sunglasses, tucking them gracefully into the inner pocket of her leather jacket. "This is one of my most cherished sanctuaries," she confided as we walked, her voice soft, almost reverent. "No one ever ventures here. It is far too remote, too inconvenient." "How did you unearth it?" I asked, genuinely intrigued. "My mother," she replied, a faint, almost wistful smile gracing her lips, "used to bring me here when I was a child, before everything became crazy." I glanced at her, observing the subtle shift in her demeanor. She appeared different in this ethereal light, softer, younger, almost ethereal. We walked for approximately 10 minutes before the narrow trail abruptly opened up into a small elevated clearing, offering a breathtaking panoramic vista of the sprawling valley below. The city lights were just beginning their nightly dance, flickering on one by one like nascent stars awakening to life. Aurora gracefully sat down on a smooth, flat rock positioned near the precipice. I settled down beside her, a comfortable silence enveloping. "Wow," I breathed, the single word an inadequate expression of the profound beauty surrounding us. "This is truly magnificent." "I told you," she whispered, a triumphant note in her voice. We sat in companionable silence for a moment, simply absorbing the awe-inspiring spectacle. Then Aurora broke the stillness. "I desperately needed this," she confessed quietly, her voice imbued with a raw vulnerability. "After the premiere, after the party, after the ceaseless interviews and the relentless photographs and the endless procession of fabricated smiles, I needed something unequivocally real. And you," she turned to me, her gaze intense, unwavering, "you provided that. You are the most genuine, unvarnished truth I have encountered in this city in years." My breath caught in my throat, a sudden tightness in my chest. "Aurora, I understand it sounds excessively dramatic," she interjected swiftly, a self-deprecating humor in her voice. "I am, after all, an actress. Everything I utter tends to possess a certain theatrical flair, but I mean it, Maya. When I am in your presence, I do not feel compelled to perform. I can simply exist." I found myself incapable of articulating a coherent response, so I simply reached out and took her hand. She looked down at our entwined fingers, a delicate tapestry of connection. Then she laughed softly, a fragile, almost disbelieving sound. "This is utterly insane, isn't it? We barely know each other." "Yes," I whispered, echoing her sentiment. "It is, but it does not feel insane." No, she agreed, her voice barely audible. It absolutely does not. We remained seated there, our hands inextricably linked, observing the mesmerizing spectacle of the city illuminating itself beneath us. The air grew perceptibly colder, yet neither of us stirred. Tell me something else, Aurora urged, her voice a soft, persistent query. Something true. I considered her request, delving into the depths of my own vulnerabilities. I have never truly felt a sense of belonging anywhere, not in my hometown, not here. I have always been the perpetual outsider, peering in. And now, she prompted, her gaze unwavering. I looked at her, this extraordinary woman seated beside me, and confessed, I don't know, but sitting here with you, I do not feel like an outsider. Her eyes softened, a profound understanding blossoming within their depths. Good, because I have no desire for you to be one. She leaned her head gently against my shoulder. It was such a simple, unassuming gesture, yet it sent a thrilling jolt through my heart. May I confide in you something profoundly true? She inquired, her voice a fragile whisper. Always. I am utterly terrified of this. I frowned, a sudden ripple of concern disturbing my newfound serenity. Of what, precisely? Of whatever this is, she clarified, her gaze sweeping between us, encompassing the unspoken electricity that thrummed in the air. Of whatever is transpiring between us. She lifted her head from my shoulder and looked at me, her eyes reflecting the nascent city lights below, a shimmering galaxy of fear and hope. I have dedicated my entire existence to pursuing lights, spotlight, camera lights, the dazzling ephemeral city lights, perpetually moving, perpetually reaching for something perpetually just beyond my grasp. But you, her voice dropped to a barely audible whisper, imbued with a profound reverence, you are the very first light that does not burn. I felt a sudden prickling sensation behind my eyes, tears threatening to spill. Aurora, I understand it is far too premature to utter such declarations, she interjected swiftly, her voice imbued with a desperate urgency. I comprehend that we have only just met, but I find myself utterly incapable of ceasing my thoughts about you, and that profoundly frightens me because I possess no understanding of how to manage such an intense emotion. I reached up, my hand trembling slightly, and gently cupped her face. Then do nothing, simply be here with me. She closed her eyes, a gesture of profound surrender, and leaned into my touch, her skin soft beneath my palm. Okay. We remained in that embrace for an extended period, a timeless tableau against the backdrop of the evolving night sky, long enough for the sky's fiery orange to transform into a deep, velvety purple, and then to an impenetrable, star-studded black, long enough for the sprawling city below to metamorphose into a breathtaking, shimmering blanket of incandescent lights. Finally, Aurora pulled back slightly, a reluctant withdrawal. We should begin our return. Chloe is likely wondering as to your whereabouts. Chloe believes I am working late. Aurora smiled, a hint of genuine amusement dancing in her eyes. You fabricated an excuse for your roommate? For me? Perhaps, I conceded, a subtle blush rising to my cheeks. She laughed, a real unguarded sound that echoed through the quiet night. I am a truly terrible influence, probably. We stood up, a shared reluctance in our movements, and began our descent back down the winding trail. This time, however, Aurora took my hand once more, her grip firm and reassuring, and she did not release it. When we reached the waiting SUV, she turned to me before entering the vehicle. May I see you again? She asked, her voice soft, tinged with a delicate hope. Soon? Yes, I replied without the slightest hesitation, the word a fervent affirmation. She smiled, a profound relief washing over her features. Then she did something that caused my entire world to tilt on its axis. She gently kissed my cheek, a soft, fleeting, yet utterly unmistakable touch. Good night, Maya. Good night, Aurora. I watched the sleek SUV glide away, my heart thrumming a frantic beat, my cheeks still warm from the lingering imprint of her lips. Everything was undeniably changing, and for the first time in a very long time, I was not afraid. The ensuing 2 weeks unfurled in a dizzying succession of clandestine encounters, stolen moments that felt simultaneously fleeting and eternal. Our dates were carefully orchestrated. Coffee rendezvous in obscure, unassuming cafes where her famous visage went blissfully unrecognized. Late-night phone calls that stretched into the nascent hours of the morning. Our voices hushed